Welcome to Beyond the Page, the official podcast of Choice, the magazine of professional coaching, where we bring you amazing insights and in-depth features that you just won't find anywhere else. I'm your host, Gary Schleifer, and I'm excited to expand your learning as we delve into the latest articles, have a chat with this brilliant author here, and uncover the learnings that are transforming the coaching world. When you get a chance, join our vibrant community of coaching professionals as we explore groundbreaking ideas, share tips, techniques, and make a real difference in our clients' lives, which is what we're up to. Remember, this is your go-to resource for all things coaching, and let's dive in. In today's episode, I'm speaking with Master Certified Coach Don Maruska, who is the author of an article in our latest issue, Climate Consciousness and Coaching, Making the Connection. The article is entitled, Climate Change Needs Coaching, an Attraction Model for Effective Climate Conversation with Clients. A little bit about Don. He has an MBA, JD, and as I mentioned, is a Master Certified Coach. He's the author of at least one book, the one we know of called Solve Climate Change Now, Do What You Love for a Healthy Planet. He uses a proven attraction model to help people match what they love to do with what's needed for a healthy climate. Previously, Don created and led a nationwide coaching program serving 10,000 professionals a year. Prior to his coaching career, Don was founder and CEO of 3 Silicon Valley companies, earning a National Innovator Award. Wow, that's a lot, Don. Thank you for joining me today.
Pleasure to be with you and your audience.
Yeah. Normally I ask you authors, like, why would you write for Choice? Why did you choose to? And I think I chose you a little bit based on your previous book and the steps that you have in there. So why don't you just tell us a little bit more about the book and the action steps that you have in there, the 3 A's.
Sure. Well, the book came about because people were increasingly asking what could they do for a healthy climate? What's the role of coaches, and how can people take action? And what I realized is that many of the approaches that were being applied for climate action were really becoming counterproductive. People were burning out about climate issues because they were really fear-driven approaches. And fear works as a short-term motivator for people. It'll get them going, they'll do something. Most people, if a friend asks them, will do something once. But whether they do it on an ongoing basis and carry it forward is really dependent upon their own self-motivation. So there was a gap in approach about how to address climate. And the gap is we really need to shift from that fear-driven model into a more hopeful model, into an attraction model. Um, and coaches know that really attraction is the way to work with clients, not sort of making them feel bummed out and terrible about, their life
Right.
in the world and wanting to, do what you tell them. We really have to engage them. And so the question then became, okay, how to do that effectively? And humans are not very good at solving chronic problems. We're good at acute problems because as humans, we want to, like swat at that problem,
Yeah, fix
get it
it.
done and get it out and have it over with. And it shows up in our medical world. People are much more willing to have acute interventions than they are to make long-term behavioral and diet improvements, for example, on obesity or other things. So we're not good at that, and we have to be very conscious if we're going to be effective in it. And this is really where coaches make the most sense because coaches are really about attracting their clients into the better future that awaits them. And that really starts with, okay, what do they love doing? How does that match up with what's needed out there? And get them on their own sweet spot. Well, this is about how to help clients get on their climate sweet spot, where what they love to do matches up with what's needed, and that's the climate sweet spot. So that's what the book is all about. It's organized in 3 main parts. The first part is helping people really reflect on what it is that they love to do, what's really important to them. So many people, I encounter this in my coaching activity. Our clients are chasing things. I'm chasing things from time to time. That bright, shiny object, I'm going to
Yeah,
go after it because
exactly.
someone else is doing it.
FOMO.
Yeah. And so the whole idea is to help people get really grounded in what's truly important to them.
Hmm.
And what do they really love about enough to make change and to be part of the solution versus just contributing to the problem.
Right.
So, what we have loved in many respects has gotten us into the difficulties we have. Our love for convenience, our love for driving our cars anytime we want, anywhere we want, flying around the world, all those kinds of things. We've created this climate problem that we have because we love doing those things in the ways that they've been presented to us by the fossil fuel industries and so on. Uh, and we have to switch.
Right.
Uh, and so the first step is, okay, what do I love more than that convenience? What do I love more than that plastic, bottle? Am I motivated to try something different and to do something different? So that's the first part. The second part is, okay, so if you're grounded on what you love to do, and people love to do all different things. We have in the article the example of Seth, who a coach,
Mm.
who loves to garden and cook and invite friends together. So that's kind of what he loves to do. The second part of the book talks about what are the different ways that people can make a difference. A lot of people think, oh, what can I do as an individual? Will it make a difference? And yes, it will. And that's how all great social movements happen, is through individuals taking action, not waiting for something to come from the top
Right.
down
Right.
and solve it for us. So there's what I call the AAA of healthy climate. That's awareness, action, and advocacy. And some people like one form or another. Some people just love, like Seth did in the article, he just wanted to do something. He wanted to create a community garden and get people involved and learn about how that could help draw carbon out of the atmosphere and all the good things like that. But other people, want to boost awareness. They're sort of science like and want to explore what the underpinnings are of climate science and share them with others. Other people are advocates. They want to go and get the big wheels of Congress somehow turning in
Yeah.
positive direction, we hope. And and so people choose something out of that. Like I mentioned, Seth went for the direct action option, but anywhere that someone joins in that circle, they start to learn other things. Like Seth started to, went into action on creating a community garden. And then he learned about, well, okay, how much carbon is that going to sequester? What are the other things that could be done with commercial agriculture to make that work more efficiently? And they start to get into the other spheres once they get in the cycle,
Right.
in the place.
Right.
And then the third is, okay, where's my sweet spot going to be? How am I going to put this together for myself? And so the whole thing is set up to guide people in how to go about doing that. And
Yeah.
it really all culminates around what we highlighted in the article in Choice Magazine about a climate action conversation, which is a simple way to have in 20 minutes a conversation that you can guide a client, a fellow coach, or a family member, whomever, in some simple questions that will get them to find what that climate sweet spot is and to get going.
Right. Well, and interesting. It's a great article. Thank you very much for that example too, because it really does bring it to light. And it still leaves that question that a lot of coaches have is they're reluctant to bring up climate issues, because that's their agenda, not their clients. How can coaches handle this in service to their clients?
Right. Well, that's a really a great question, and one that I encounter, and one that I'm glad to address. And we talk about that in the Climate Coaching Alliance. So there's an organization, if coaches want to get more involved in this, there's a nonprofit called Climate Coaching Alliance.org. And a lot of coaches have this question because, yeah, I'm not supposed to have my agenda. I'm supposed to just have my client's agenda. I think, and I know from my client experience, clients appreciate us bringing up things that are truly in their interest that they may not have seen or thought about. That's one of the roles of a coach, is not just to ask questions and have the client come up with their own answers uninformed by other things that we might know about. So I don't think it's the role of the coach to sit there, with their hands tied behind their back, saying, or their, hand in front of their mouth saying, oh, I can't say anything about anything that I know.
Right.
So That's why I put in the article, the case for bringing climate coaching to the attention of our clients, even if we weren't hired for that at all.
Right.
And the reasons are pretty straightforward. The first is that increasingly customers in the marketplace are looking for and expecting producers of goods and services to be attuned to environmental issues.
Right.
I shared in the article, there's something like 81% of people uh, think that's an important value. So you're going with very good odds of bringing up this as something that's going to enhance the business. The second thing is that every business that I know about is really looking at how do they, especially after COVID, how do they strengthen the engagement of their employees with the organization? And of course, a great way to do that is with one another. Well, that's a great opportunity for employees to voluntarily get together and work together on some climate action opportunity that they could do, or some advocacy thing, or some awareness building in their community. And then the underlying aspect of that is that you look at the statistics, and the millennials and Gen Zs are asking for that.
Yeah.
They're evaluating companies on, do they line up with my values? So we're not asking the companies to impose things on the employees, but unleash the employees, enable them to be engaged around that. And that's going to be then good for the environment as well. So it's a win-win-win.
Yeah.
And on that basis, people can bring it up. And in fact, in the book, I share an example and write out a script of how
Mhm.
you could bring this up to your client in a way that would be seen as being in service to the client versus, oh, I got an agenda and I want to push it on you.
Right. And be in service of, as we all want to be. Yeah, well said. Well said. And I've been interviewing a few other people from this issue, and some of them are climate coaches. So they're marketing themselves as climate coaches, which obviously makes it an easier opportunity to bring up the conversation. So,
Yes.
and interestingly, Renee, who hooked us all up, a lot of us up for this issue, really blew me away with the idea that it didn't have to be parallel paths, that they can be intertwined, coaching and climate consciousness. So I'm really thrilled that you're a part of this issue, Don.
Oh, great. And we have to do that because, people bemoan that more isn't being done for a healthy climate.
Hmm.
And I know in early stages of my career, I worked in the US Senate, and I know how the place works.
Hmm.
Rarely, does an elected official start a parade. Usually they look for a parade that's already happening. They run around to the front to join it. And so we can't wait for our leaders to do this
No,
work for us.
can't.
They're going to respond to the number and intensity of interest, and bottom line, the level of activity of their constituents on a particular issue. Those are the things that they calibrate their own advocacy on in terms of their legislative work. So if you want to make big wheels turn, you got to get the smaller ones going,
Yeah.
and that's what makes the difference.
Yeah. No, well said. Thank you. I'm going to refer to the actual title because it really struck me again today. Climate change needs coaches. Why does climate change need coaches?
Well, because of this fundamental nature of, it took us about 170 years of the Industrial Revolution to accumulate the 1.5 trillion tons of greenhouse gases that are sitting up in the atmosphere. And when I was doing the research for the book Solve Climate Change Now, I was struck that, I was thinking, well, what happens with all those greenhouse gases? They just blow away or whatever. No, they sit up there for like 300 to 1,000 years. So that's why this is such a big and cumulative problem. Now, our difficulty is we are a visually oriented species. If we don't see something, we don't solve it
Right.
typically, or we avoid it or we ignore it. And so we don't see greenhouse gases. We saw smog in the 70s, and so we got the Clean Air Act in the 70s, but we haven't gotten the greenhouse gases because they're invisible to us. So one of the things that's really critical here is if it took us that long to get into the problem, it's going to take us a couple decades to get through it. And that means that this is a chronic problem. This is a human change problem. This is not just simply, oh, we're going to give gazillion dollars to Elon Musk or Bill Gates and they're going to solve it for us. Because what are they going to solve it with? They're going to solve it with more technology that's going to take more problems
Use more
and
resources
more.
and cause more greenhouse gases and
Right, exactly. We're just kind of chasing our tail.
right.
So that's why this is prime turf for coaches.
Mm,
Because coaches are great at helping people find their own self-motivation to make a difference.
yeah.
And we all know that when we find that in our clients, that's their quickest path to change.
Mm.
That's their quickest path to what they want to have. So if we can just help them, A, get clear about what's really important to them, and B, encourage them to see what the different options are to make a difference, and support them in choosing. I always love my clients having choice, even about whether or not they hire me.
I
I
like
tell
my
them,
readers
you should
having
not.
choice.
Yes, exactly. I'm with you there, Gary. I even tell the clients that have asked me to coach them, well, I want to be sure that you've talked to some other coaches because I want you to have the right choice for you
Yeah.
in the right chemistry.
Yeah.
And they kind of look at it, well, that's kind of strange, you know? And I have to assure, well,
Yeah.
no, it's not that I don't want to coach you. It's just
Yeah,
I want you
exactly.
to have the experience of choice because choice is so powerful and just in and
Yeah.
of itself.
Yeah. Well, so how we came up with the name way back 22 years ago. So 23 now. Wow.
Wow.
Going fast.
Long run.
Going
Good for
fast.
you.
Yeah, exactly.
So
No,
you
thank you
know
for,
what it takes to kind of stick in there and
yeah.
hang with that and how that requires self-motivation of the people
Well, it
who write
requires
you and others.
self-motivation. It requires shared vision, commitment to the vision, to the successful outcome. It kind of goes back to the distinction you made about acute versus chronic.
Yes.
When you said that, the greenhouse gases, you can't see it. It's like the issue that people have with mental health in a way. Like, I mean, they get it, but they can't see it. They can't fix it. They can't touch it, right? So how do we
Right.
help people's mind get their mind around the greenhouse gases are there, they're still there, and they'll be there until we do something about them, or can we do something about them? I don't know what
Mhm.
the answer to that one is, but
Mhm.
yeah. No, thank you so much. So anything else you couldn't fit into the article that you wanted to advise us coaches on in our conscious lives?
Well, I just think it's very important, first and foremost, uh, for coaches to embody this themselves. In other words, this is not something to do to our clients. This
Mm.
is something that we need to experience and live ourselves. The old adage, when I was among the first to become a master certified coach, the thing we always share with one another is that coaches coach on what they need to learn themselves. You
Yes.
know, and so one of the things for us to do as coaches is to have our own climate action conversations and have that with one another so that we can have the experience of what's that like. How does that feel? How do those questions hit us? How might they hit and engage and spark something in our clients. And the best way to do that is to do that oneself. And I think that's a great way to introduce these ideas to a client is to say, hey, clients I've found always are kind of curious about us coaches. Like
Yeah.
what's up?
Very
What are
much.
we looking at? What's interesting to us? What are we learning from other people that they might pick up on? And it's so it opens lots of doors. You can say, well, at the end of a coaching conversation about some other topic the person's brought up and say, you know, would you be interested in hearing something that I'm working on currently that I think might have possibilities for you and your team?
Well, that's true. I've done that many times and it wasn't on climate consciousness, it's on other stuff.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And it has the effect that you just identified, you just raised your eyebrows, you know, and that's an indication that, oh, there's interest,
Yeah.
that's sparking something. And
Yeah.
then you go from there and say, well, I'm part of a group that, if you're part of the Climate Coaching Alliance, or if you're not, if I'm just, I read this article and and our professional magazine about the opportunities for clients and serving them. I did one of these conversations myself. I think there's a lot there. And if you have 20 minutes, I'd like to just run through that conversation with you and see how it sticks with you.
Yeah, what a great opening. And along with that, the conversation that you put in the article as well, the title of your book got me. So I thought, I want to see what I can do. And of course, that was over a year ago, and I've kept motivated on my reduce, reuse, recycle mission. That's my big thing.
Uh-huh.
And
That's great. You cut it off at the start,
yeah,
right? If you don't get the plastics to begin with, you don't have to worry about the recycling.
exactly. And if I do end up with plastics, I take them with me and use them again a couple of
Yeah,
times. And I've become like my mother. I wash the Ziploc bags and reuse them. Okay.
I do too. I do too. And it's because the awareness that you and others are gaining that if we don't, those plastics stay with us forever and they
Yeah.
become microplastics. They're finding
Oh,
them in our hearts and they cross the blood-brain barrier and they get into our brains even. And goodness
yeah.
knows what they're doing up there. I don't think they've totally figured out, what that is, but it doesn't sound like what I'd really like to
Yeah, like
happen in my
having
body.
yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, there's simple things we can do and they're choices.
Yeah.
They're choices that we make every day. And people don't realize how many choices they're making
Yeah.
and until they step back and take a look at it. So that's wonderful that you're doing that. That's,
Yeah.
I have in the book, Project Drawdown has the experts from around the world, the scientists say, okay, what are the things that, consumers and people in their households could do over a 30-year period that would make the most difference? Number one at the top of the list is reduce food waste. Second one is have a plant-rich diet, and not you go on down the road. But those things are even above, shelling out money to get solar panels, which is
Right.
also a very good thing to do. But
Yeah.
these other things, actually, because we do them every day,
Yeah.
multiple times a day,
Yeah.
actually have a bigger impact. So there's lots of opportunities. And one of the things that the book highlights is, some statistics that I generated from the scientists about how much difference these individual actions can make for us. So, if each of us had, shared a ride with somebody,
I
licensed
remember
driver
that
shared a
part of the
ride,
book. Yeah.
a 30 mile round trip ride or whatever, once a month. And we just did that across the country. We would save 80 billion pounds
Wow.
of greenhouse gases. So little things add up. And I
Yeah.
think people need to know that there's a basis for that. And there's also I did research on, well, how many people do you have to get in a social change movement to actually get the tipping point? Some people say, oh, we're never going to get to 50%. We can't get to 50% on what day of the week it is, in this country at the present time. But that's not really true. If you get a core group of as sometimes as low as 3.5% up to maybe 25%, you can make a difference.
Yeah.
That'll get the tipping point rolling
Yeah.
in your favor.
Yeah.
So
I've
we're
heard
not
that too.
hopeless,
Yeah.
uh, and
We're still
coaches have
here.
a great things that they can do, and they're sorely needed
Yeah.
at
Thank
this point
you.
in time.
Very much so. Wow. Thank you so much. What would you like our audience to do other than what we've just said as a result of the article in this conversation? I can suggest one, join the Climate Coaching Initiative, you fellow coaches. Number two is solve the climate crisis now, buy Don's book, preferably digitally.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. So those are big things. Yeah. So climate coaching alliance.org. You can get some free resources at my website, solveclimatechangenow.com, and get more information and more things that you can do to make a difference yourself. And then I think fundamentally, it's having conversations. It's having, try the conversation out. Read the article. It gives you enough in there to figure out how to do it,
Yep.
and start
Yes.
having some fun.
Yeah.
It's actually fun,
What? Climate
people
change,
light up.
climate consciousness can be fun?
Exactly. The amazing thing is when people combine what they love to do They
Yeah.
talk with you about what they love to do. Immediately you get energy from them, right? Because
Yeah.
they're talking about something they love to do. And then you combine that with things that they can do and they see and they choose something they'd like to do. They get excited. They get energy.
Yeah.
They see
Yeah.
opportunity. And that's what we need is that kind of joyfulness to be energizing us in what's really a very challenging set of issues.
Yeah.
And the challenge of them doesn't diminish the importance of our impact.
Yeah. No kidding. Thank you very much. Thanks for everything, Don, for your book, for your commitment, for your coaching, for this article, for this conversation. A
My
pleasure.
pleasure. Well, thank you for giving people and making people aware of how important their choices are by the good work of
Always.
your magazine.
So I like to say you always have the power of choice.
You do.
But bum. What's the best way to reach you, Don? Through Solve Climate Change
Yeah,
Now?
if you go to solveclimatechangenow.com or I'm on LinkedIn, Don Maruska on
Yeah.
LinkedIn is a great way. You also see I put my blog pieces up there about things that I'm thinking
Awesome.
about and working on and invite commentary and interaction there. It seems to be a good audience for that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That's it for this episode of Beyond the Page. For more episodes, subscribe via your favorite podcast app. If you're not a subscriber to Choice Magazine and you're watching this, you can sign up for your free digital issue by scanning the QR code in the top right-hand corner of our screen. Or if you're listening by audio, go to choice-online.com and click the Sign Up Now button. I'm Gary Schleifer. Enjoy the journey of mastery.